right. One of my favorite Saturday Night Live skits is where Jimmy Fallon's playing DJ. And we're back! So, we're back. 3 days. I told you last week Thursday, I told you to look out there and see grass because we probably won't see it for a while. I didn't realize it was going to be this long before we even saw the room, let alone who knows when we'll see grass again. Okay? So, because of the 3 days that we were out, we have tweaked things a little bit. So, let's actually start last week, Friday, with Pi Day. Okay? I have your videos. I just have not had a chance to go through them yet because I was busy doing other things. Mainly, I was yesterday afternoon at about 3:30. I had a deep dive study on the back of my eyelids. Okay? I just fell asleep in my chair. And like, I was kind of tired. Never had that. Like, rare that I take a nap during the day. I took a hard nap. But anyway, so I'll grade those this week at some point in time. But that's okay because we have our extra credit turned off until the end of the semester anyway. So, but I can show you what you got on those when I get those videos done did watch. Okay? You were supposed to take a formative yesterday online. If you haven't taken that yet, that formative is still available for you to take online. It will be graded. We will shut it off tonight at 11:59. I think it's scheduled to be turned off. So you have today to get that formative done. Today we're going to talk about powers and how they relate to roots with complex numbers. Tomorrow, same thing, powers and roots. Okay? Friday is still going to be a vertical whiteboard day. You are going to be, but it's going to be a tweak. We're not necessarily going to get you up and around the room. We're going to have you working with one other person at different areas around the room doing the same thing. Okay? Then the next week, Monday we don't have class. Tuesday is pre-ACT forward exam. Okay? So we don't have class that day. At the end of class today, we will tell you what your asynchronous assignment for that day is. Okay? So there is something for you to get done on that day. On the Wednesday the 25th, that was supposed to be your test. That test has been pushed back one day. So your test is now March 26th, which is the Thursday of next week. On that 25th, on that Wednesday that we are all back then, we will have a formative. In-class formative, we will take it right away, we will correct it right away, and we will then answer questions right away on that one, so that you're ready to go for the test the next day. Okay? We wanted to give you an on-paper formative at some point in time so that we can judge how you're doing. I hate online or Canvas quizzes because it doesn't really gauge what you are doing and what you're not doing and what you're chat GPTing or how many people are in the room with you, etc. Okay? So So there we go. Happy National Sloppy Joe Day. Sloppy Joes. Sloppy Joes. So let's start with this one. We have 5 square roots of 3 minus 5i, and we're taking that to the 4th power. If we want to utilize de Moivre's theorem, then we need to, at first, take 5 square roots of 3 minus 5i and put it into trig form. So the first thing we need to do is we need to find our r value. I get an R value of 10. Do you agree? Then we need to find our reference angle because we're not in quadrant number 1. And our reference angle just happens to be 30 degrees for this particular one. This complex number in the complex plane is in quadrant number 4. So my actual theta is 330 degrees. So this really is $10. That's a bad 10. Cosine I sine of 330 degrees. Would you agree with me on that? Okay. Which means I'm going to take 10 according to De Moivre and take it to the 4th power. And I'm going to take 4 times my angle. That would give me 10,000 cosine I sine of 1,320 degrees. Do I like that as an answer? Why not? Not within the first lap of the unit circle. So I got to subtract off 360, I got to subtract off 360, and I probably got to subtract off 360. And then that's going to give me 10,000 cosine I sine of 240 degrees in trig form. Agree with me on that? The cosine at 240 degrees is negative 1/2. So then this would be negative 5,000. The sine at 240 degrees is negative root 3 over 2. So then that would be minus 5,000 I square root of 3. Top one is trig form, bottom one is standard. Good? All right. Let's take a step back to our Algebra 1 days for you. Okay? If I wanted to solve that first one, 2x plus 3 equals 0, what's the first thing that I would do? Subtract 3, so I'd have 2x equals negative 3. Then, divide by 2, and I'd get x is negative 3/2. Love it. In number 2, what would be the first thing that I would do? Square root both sides, and what do I get? No. No. Plus or minus 4. Right? There is a difference between 4 and plus or minus 4. The difference is one has all the answers, one only has half of the answers. Okay? Okay? So the snickering can go on, which is fine, but if you only want to be half right, just say 4. Okay? Okay? What would we do in number 3? Factor it. What does it factor to be? And then what? Now we said those equal to 0, right? And we would get Sure we would. X equals -5 and -1. Right? Okay. What about number 4? Take out an X first. Then factor it. What does that factor to be? So then we would have X is 0, X minus 2 is 0, X minus 1 is 0, and so we would get 0, 1, and 2 as our answers. Agree with me on that. Okay? All of those are following what we call the fundamental theorem of algebra. And the fundamental theorem of algebra says that the degree of a polynomial, when solving it, tells us how many solutions, how many answers, how many zeros, how many roots that we are supposed to get. Okay? The degree, remember, is the biggest exponent on a variable. Okay? So if we go back and we look at all of our degrees of these functions, okay, in this one, the degree was 1, so we got 1 answer. In this one, the degree was 2, so we needed to get 2 answers. Here, the degree was 2. I needed 2 answers. And in number 4, the degree was 3. I needed to get 3 answers. Okay? Okay? Love it. What about this one? How would you go about solving this one? Subtract 8 first. Okay? So if I subtract 8 first, then I get x cubed equals -8. Then I cube root it. You can cube root, yep. So we get x equals -2. What's the problem? Only one answer. How many do I need? I need 3 answers. So I'm missing 2. Okay? So those are going to be imaginary then, because what's really happening with this particular one is if I were to graph this on the x, y Cartesian coordinate plane, this function comes through here and then goes through like this. And the only 2 points that I know of on this function are -2, 0 and 0, 8. Okay? Those are the only 2 points that I know of, but I know that it never crosses the x-axis again. Okay? Right? And that's where my zeros, my solutions, my roots, my answers live, is along the x-axis. So that's what's going on in that one. So we've got to be able to find that other one. So how we go about finding that is we know that they're going to be complex, so let's turn this into a complex problem. So I'm going to pick it up from that first step. That first step was we went to x cubed equals -8. Okay? -8 is a real number. Let's make it be a complex number. How do I make -8 be a complex number? Or I should say, what is -8 in complex number form? Got it? Try it. -8 plus 0, what? Okay. So this is that. Right? Okay. Then somebody said, I don't remember who, somebody said we take the cube root of both sides. Right? Okay? What is taking the cube root of both sides? what is that in terms of a power? What power would I be taking to both sides when we take the cube root of both sides? 1/3 power. So this would really then be x equals -8 plus 0i to the 1/3 power. Complex number to a power, we can do that from De Moivre, right? Okay? So we should first transfer this into trig form. Don't even need to do any calculations. What's my R value? My R value would be 8. Cosine I sine would be not of 0 degrees, no. 180, right? Because it's -8, so it's all the way out here, right? So that would be 180 degrees. Okay? De Moivre says, now I take this 8 to the 1/3 power cosine I sine of 1/3. Oops, we'll put cosine in there. Of 1/3 times 180 degrees. 8 to the 1/3 power is the cube root of 8, yes? Which is 2. 1/3 times 180 degrees is 60. Okay. So my first answer is, actually, hold on one second. Let me see if I can. Oh, good, they are. Yay. Break those up a little bit. My first answer is 2. Oops, nope, not in that color. Is 2 cosine I sine of 60 degrees, or 1 plus I square root of 3 in standard. Okay? 60 degrees is 1/2 time, or 1/2 for cosine. 2 times 1/2 is 1. Sine is √3 over 2 times 2 is just √3, so it's 1 plus I square root of 3. Okay? Here's where we have to go a little bit past De Moivre, because now we've got one imaginary. We did have the one real that's in blue up here. That would be -2 plus 0i. But here's how we get that next one. So I take 360 degrees, because I'm going all the way around the circle. And I've got to evenly disperse my 3 roots around that circle. Okay? So my degree was 3. So I'm going to divide 360 by 3. That's 120. So I'm going to add here 120 degrees, which would be 2 cosine I sine of 180 degrees, which would be -2 plus 0i, or my one real answer that we already got. Then I take that answer, and I add another 120 degrees to it. And that would give me 2 cosine I sine of 300 degrees or cosine at 300 is positive 1/2, so that would be 1 minus I squared. So in this particular one, our second answer here was what we had gotten by doing just the algebra. And then our first and our third answers are our two imaginary ones that we said we needed to get to fill out our 3 total. Questions, comments, concerns, clarification? Let's try another one. So we've got x cubed equals 27, and we want to figure out the 3 roots. Well, first off, I would write it as plus 0i, because then it's in complex. Trig form of that one would be (27) cosine I sine of 0 degrees to mauve tells me that. (27 to the 1/3 power is 3. 1/3 times 0 degrees is 0 degrees. So my first answer here would be 3 cosine I sine of 0 degrees, or 3 plus 0i, or just 3. (360 degrees divided by 3 is 120 degrees. So then I'm going to add 120 degrees to 0. So that would be 3 cosine I sine of 120 degrees, which would be negative 3/2 plus 3 square roots of 3 over 2i. Then I would add another 120 degrees to it to get me 240 degrees, which would be negative 3/2 minus 3 square roots of 3 over 2 times I. Depends on what we ask for. Because we might ask for them in standard form, we might ask for them in trig form. most of the time we'll ask for them in trig form because we're going to get out of this, we're going to get like fifth roots, sixth roots, eighth roots, that kind of thing. Okay? Right? So, but it's always good to know how to go back and forth and very quickly. Yeah. Okay? All right. Try one on your own. Yeah. Okay. Find me the fifth roots. So that means how many answers are you going to have? 5 answers for this one. Okay. Right. Of square root of 3 plus I. Did it again. I get an R value of 2 and theta value of 30 degrees, the 1/5 power. So then that's going to be 2 to the 1/5 power cosine I sine of 1/5 times 30 degrees. So that's going to be the 5th root of 2 cosine I sine of 6 degrees. So my first answer degrees. Then 360 is going to be divided by 5, which gives me 72. So 6 plus 72, oops, that breaks. My second one is going to be the 5th root of 2 cosine I sine of 78 degrees. My third one is going to be the 5th root of 2 cosine I sine of 150 degrees. My fourth one is going to be the 5th root of 2 cosine I sine of 222 degrees. And my last one would be the 5th root of 2 cosine I sine of 200, oops, I forgot the 9 and 298, oops, forgot the eraser, of 298 degrees. No, 94. Yep. With me on those. Yep. Question. Try that one. Forgot to change it to the 6th root, so go 6th root on this one. Agree with me so far? R value of the square root of 97, direction angle of 329.491 degrees. Okay. So we're taking that now to the 1/6 power. So my first of 6 would be the square root, excuse me, not the square root, correction. (97) to the 1/12 power, or the 12th root of 97, times cosine I sine of 54.915 degrees. That would also become 1.464 cosine I sine. Oops, let me move that over just a little bit. Huh? My second one, (360 divided by 6 is 60. So I'm going to add 60 degrees to that one. So 54 plus 60 then is going to be 114.915 degrees. My third one is going to be 174.915 degrees. My fourth one is going to be 234.915 degrees. My fifth one is going to be 294.915 degrees. And my last one is going to be 354.915 degrees. Questions, comments, concerns, clarifications? Either one. Or you could also write it as the 12th root of 97. Okay? So, looking ahead then to next week, Tuesday. So, first off, you can do up to number 32 in your packet. Truth be told, in your homework packet, you now know how to do all of the homework packet. So you could do it all. But we are assigning numbers 33 through 47 as your next Tuesday's asynchronous day for you guys. Just like yesterday, your assignment was the formative. Next Tuesday's assignment is those problems down there. Okay?